What's poppin', mi gente? Your boy's back with another video. Now today's video is going to be focused on showing off what I've been working on for the last 2 weeks or so, and that is something called colored 3D discs. These effects are used when you use a potion, a Manna Prism, an Uncurse, an Antivenom, any of the resist items, resist fire, ice, lightning, etc., or any of the stat up items like strength up, attack up, defense up, etc. in the original game. These are literally a 3D disc object that then has a texture of a gradient with a mask over it, and there are different gradients. I'm not going to really go into the details of how to make each one, but I will show them off in the background while I am discussing some stuff in the foreground here. First up, I want to start up with giving some props to some specific Patreon supporters, because I really do like to give thanks to all of you who have gone above and beyond to support this project. I don't feel like I do it enough, so I'm going to start off by just giving quick shout outs to everybody who's donated more than $200 and up altogether and is still a Patreon supporter. So shout outs to Matt Owens, Nathan Toft, Zane Geyser, Tommy Ledbetter, Daniel Cushman, Caesar Esco 69, Jordan, Justin Harding, my boy O'Brien42. I see you, homie. I appreciate the support. Arturo De La Torre, Andy Abreu, Tony Smoot, Kobe Almazan, Glitch Slime, Chuck Quince. And now I want to give a quick shout out to my two top supporters. In second place, my boy X Birch X. Appreciate the support. It's one of my 2 gold members. Been with me for a while, since May 2020. And I absolutely want to give a special thanks to my #1 by far top Patreon supporter, a gold member who's been supporting me since May 12, 2019. My boy Hosani69. Thank you so much, peoples. Y'all have no idea how much of a difference you've all made. Of course, I want to give a quick shout out to the rest of my Patreon supporters, but y'all got to get on the rest of these guys' levels. I mean, these are the dudes that are really, these are the dudes and ladies who are really making this project a reality, and I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. So, let's go ahead and jump into the content I want to discuss today, and as I said in the background, you'll see some of these 3D effects playing that I just completed, but yeah, the stuff I'm going to talk about is totally separate stuff. I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. The first thing I want to talk about is extra rewards for Patreon supporters, which I, for the longest time, wanted to give some of the top supporters some extra stuff. The obvious thing that the top tier ones are going to get is access to alphas before everybody else. There are going to be 3 types of releases with the project here. Alpha ones, which the first one is coming soon. I'll discuss that shortly. But of course, the top Patreon supporters will get access to that, and I'll discuss the conditions rather, of how to do that. Second would be betas, of course, then other Patreon supporters at the lower levels have access to the betas, and then of course there's general releases that everybody else gets. However, I'm also considering, on top of the fact that if you donate over a certain amount to me, you do get your image put into a dev room that'll be in the final product of the game, giving you a special thanks with your own little icon. And a quick mention, the credits as well, potentially. Besides that, I'm also considering having an actual manual made for the game. A digital one, in the style of the original Nintendo-era Konami games, with ridiculous descriptions, crudely drawn enemy drawings, and all. That's something I have work in progress. I am looking for an artist to do that, but my point is, for my top Patreon supporters, don't think that I'm not sitting here noticing what you guys are doing, and don't think this is the only rewards I'm going to give, is what I have out so far. There's a lot more I have in mind for you guys. Next up, let's talk about the roadmap for the demo, as in, what do I need to do before I can get a demo out? Getting to the point, because I know the big question is, and it has been for the longest time, when are we going to see a demo of what you've been working on, Esco? Well, the goal now is within the next 3 months. And the reason is because the roadmap of what I have to do is pretty much as follows. It's gotten a lot smaller over time here, and this is to release the alpha version of the game where you'll be able to play as Legacy Richter. Another alpha of the game will be coming out afterwards where you can play as Alucard, and that shouldn't be too far off after the Richter one, or the Rondo Richter one. But again, I want to get something out ASAP versus making you wait until everything I want to do with Alucard is coded in, tested, etc. So without going into details, it'll bore you all. At the moment, I just got done completing what I call the Time Manager. That basically allows me to pause the game or do bullet time effects or even implement a turbo mode. I expected it to take 3 or 4 days. I amazingly completed it in half a day. it was not as in-depth as I thought it would be, but that's mostly because I sat down one day and really took a lot of notes on what I needed to do and how I needed to do it, and kind of figured out the most efficient way to accomplish the task. And it was worth spending those few hours doing that, because it saved me days worth of coding work, fumbling and fucking around. For those who don't know, in Unity, unlike in GameMaker, you have no simple way to pause the game. Doing time.timescale equals 0 will not work for that, for a plethora of reasons I won't bore you all with, so I had to code my own thing. With this setup as it is, it's not set up yet so that enemies can be frozen in place or slowed down. That's a totally separate thing on top of the one I just made, but it is much easier to do than the one I just created that'll be used as a universal timescale system, and it just gives me so much more control and lets me do all kinds of effects. So that's done. The next step is the code to change rooms, which I'm already working on that. I completed that in GameMaker, but it's going to have to be completely changed for Unity. So I am working on that, and I'm going to be going back to that after I get done with this video. That shouldn't take more than a day or two, 3 at extreme most, to iron out any bugs, because I've planned in advance for this. The HUD heads-up display is going to use the Legacy Symphony of the Night 1 for the prologue stage for the moment. I do need to have another one done for Alucard, a brand new one, but again, for the moment, the HUD for Legacy Richter won't take more than a day to do. That's very simple stuff. Damaging breakables, enemies, the codes for that. That's code I've done before. I do have to make some modifications to it. That again is something that'll take a day or two to iron all the bugs, and we're good to go. The Dracula 1 and 2 battle, I have coded in all of Dracula 1's animations. Dracula 2's, I coded in a few of them. I have to code in the rest. And then I have to code in the actual AI for them, but I'm pretty much going to take the GameMaker AI and repro it in this game, so it's just a matter of recoding that. That's not something that'll take more than a couple of days. Pretty simple stuff. The outro screen and the conversations, and by that I mean the screen that shows up after you kill Dracula. It's basically just some scrolling text and effects, some audio, and the conversations. What I mean by that is when Richter's speaking to Dracula, that's something I am going to have to play with, because I need to make sure it's something that I can use throughout the game, and I'm going to need to implement a number of features for that. So for the outro screen, figure not even 2 hours. For the conversation, figure maybe a day, 2 days, extreme most. I need to create a test enemy, one that you guys can launch and knock back, and then I'll be putting into the room before Dracula, just so you guys can check out the new... I don't know if I want to call it physics. I guess physics would be the proper term, because you're now able to knock back enemies, you're able to send them flying, you're able to knock them down, and I want you to be able to see how you can actually chain attacks together, even with a character that's created to be a classic legacy character like Rondo Richter. He does have some options to do this, or to set an enemy on fire or make them bleed, etc. So I do need to create a test enemy for that. I'm not sure how long that'll take, so I'm going to say that maybe to iron out all the bugs, 3 or 4 days to a week extreme most, and that's a huge estimate there. I of course need to do some final checks and bug testing, which give that a couple of days, 2 or 3, and set some basic values within the player once I'm done doing all the rest of that. You know, numbers that I have right now set at debugging levels to allow me to do moves an unlimited number of times, but that's literally an hour task there. So again, I'm saying 3 months from now the demo will be out. Could be sooner, but I'm saying 3 months to be safe. Now, let's talk about the important bit. How do you get your hands on the alpha demo of the game? Keep in mind again, there are 3 types of releases: alphas, betas, and general releases, which general releases are what would come out to everybody. Alphas and betas being limited to Patreon supporters, with only the highest ones. And for the moment, I'm setting the guideline for the alpha to be anybody who's donated $99 and up total and has been a Patreon supporter for 3 months or more. So yes, that means if you want to get the alpha and you're not a Patreon supporter, you want to join right now. Because I guarantee when the time comes 3 months from now, there are going to be people who are going to pop in and go, hey, can I just donate to you a chunk of money now, and would you send me the alpha? And the answer is going to be no. And here's why. When I release the alpha, I'm going to be coding each release of the alpha for each person for the first release to have a specific code in it. And the reason is because this way, if anybody chooses to release the alpha to the public, I know who they are and I can cut off their benefits. In this way, I don't have to worry about leaks. That's the plan for the initial phase of alphas and betas. Once the first general release is out, I probably won't need to do that anymore, but for these first releases, I'm going to be ultra careful, just again, so they don't end up thrown all over the damn internet. So some of you won't be happy about that. I mean, and that's fine. You know, keep in mind you don't owe me anything, but at the same time, I don't owe you anything. Okay? And out of all my Patreon supporters, I'm sure that 99.9% of them are amazing, won't be leaking it, and I have nothing to worry about. There's always that one bad seed though, so I'm going to nip that in the bud. So bottom line is, if you want to get your hands on the alpha, the rules are you got to be a Patreon supporter for 3 months or more and have donated at least 99 and up total. Oh, and you have to be a current patron. So if you were somebody that supported me a year ago and then dipped out, you're going to have to rejoin. But you have to have been that doesn't mean you have to rejoin for 3 months. That means you have to be a current member and have been a member at some point for at least a total of 3 months. So let's say you joined for 2 months, jumped off, and then a month before jumped on for another month. That's 3 months, just to make sure I'm 100% clear. After I release the alpha version of the game, I will go ahead and iron out any bugs, any basic things that any of my Patreon supporters come across. Again, I already have a forum set up for that you guys can access. And then the next step will be to release the beta. The beta, I'm most likely going to just release to anybody who's donated more than $50 and up and is a current member. And that's that. Nice and simple, and that'll come out a couple of weeks after the alpha. And then after that, maybe 2 weeks after, 3 weeks, depending again on whether I find bugs, what I want to add in, the reception I get to various features. Then there's a general public release, which if you're waiting on the general public release, I'm just not going to give you a date. You know, the people who are going to get alphas and betas, you're the priority, the top Patreon supporters. You know, and even when I'm saying people who have donated $50 and up, that's the majority of my Patreon supporters. Looking through the list right now, just about everybody on there has donated $50 and up. So about 75% of you to 80% of you in that tier and have nothing to worry about. For the rest of you, again, you know, you can always feel free to donate more over the next couple of months if you want to gain access. If you don't, it's not that important to you. That's fine, I understand. Not everybody's got money to throw around anyway. But that's that when it comes to releases. I'm giving everybody a lot of heads up notice now, so nobody again can get all butthurt 3 months from now and go, oh, well, I didn't have time to join and, you know, now I've got to wait. Well, it is what it is. Again, I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure my stuff doesn't get leaked all over the internet, because I want to make sure that my Patreon supporters get to feel like we're getting something for our support. Esco's showing us he gives a damn. Esco's showing he cares. It's not just all talk. As far as I'm concerned, talk is not only cheap, but free. You can consider me a deaf man with 20/20 motherfucking vision, so I like to show people that I appreciate what they've done for me. Alright, so that's that. The last thing I want to talk about is something I mentioned, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, is I want to do a Q&A type video. Now, that's not something I'm going to do in this video, so don't bother putting your questions down below, they won't get answered. But I'm going to create another video probably in a week or two where I'm specifically going to ask you guys to leave questions in the comments. For my Patreon supporters, as always, you'll want to put your questions on Patreon. If I don't get enough questions, then no, I won't proceed with it. If I do and I get enough that I can fill up even a 10-minute video, then I'll be more than happy to do a QA session. I will quickly reiterate some of the stuff I've covered in. I had a QA video about a year or two ago with some basic stuff that I answered. I will reiterate some of those answers briefly on common questions like, you know, for example, what Saturn stuff am I going to include? That's a question I'm still hearing, even though I've answered it multiple times. But the rest will be questions that you guys are going to donate in, or, excuse me, that you guys submit, that I feel are information that everybody out there, or the majority of people out there, would like an answer to, and we'll go from there. If I have to make the video longer than 10 minutes, that's fine. I can make a 30-minute long video if I get enough good questions. As always, I'm going to say it again, Patreon supporters, you get the priority, so make sure you are putting your questions through the Patreon page when the time comes. That's it. Alright, so with that, I'm done talking. I hope you guys like the effects you've seen in this video. I hope you guys all like what you're seeing in the demos I'm putting, or excuse me, I hope you guys all like what you're seeing with the motions, the controls, the graphics. I like how you guys are getting to see for yourself, you know, that there's progress being made and this isn't a load of bullshit. I hope that all of my Patreon supporters are enjoying the changelogs I'm putting out. As you can see, they're bristling with details and lots of information. If you're not a Patreon supporter, go join right now so you can access all of them. Believe me, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're never going to see in a video that you guys are missing out on, including seeing sprites that are not being released to everybody else, that if you're not a Patreon supporter, you're just never going to get to see them outside of waiting for the game to come out. Alright, if you don't want to become a Patreon supporter, you can do a one-time donation. Link will be down below to PayPal. Other than that, as always, you're all welcome to join the Facebook group and the forums. But that's it. I'm out. I will talk to you all soon. I got a lot more exciting stuff coming, and I hope you guys are as hyped as I am. Peace.